Nevada Weir is an award-winning photographer known for capturing the remote corners of the world. Her work has been featured in National Geographic, the New York Times Magazine, Outside, and the Smithsonian, among others. A fellow of the Explorers Club and a member of the Women's Geographic Society, Nevada's adventurous spirit and deep connection to her subjects shine through in every image. She's represented by the Obscura Gallery in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and is a highly respected educator. Photo District News named her one of America's best photography workshop teachers. She leads photography tours and workshops for National Geographic, the Santa Fe Workshops, and the Los Angeles Center of Photography. And today, on the Crit House, Nevada Weir shares her myFIVE images and discusses the photographers and visual influences that have inspired her, including Elliot Porter, David Allen Harvey, Eric Meola, Margaret Bourke-White, and NASA's Webb telescope. Well, Nevada Weir, welcome back to the Crit House. For viewers out there, this is the third time we've recorded this because we've had technical problems two other times. And Nevada, I thank you for your patience in coming back on and re-recording this episode of the Crit House.
Well, I get a chance to talk to you again, so it's fantastic, and I get to think more about the images. So I'm looking forward to this continuing discussion.
So Nevada, you are a photographer who has done a lot of different things, National Geographic and a lot of other areas you've worked. But why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are as a photographer, a little bit about your history, but like when people ask you what you are and who you are as a photographer, what do you tell them?
Well, honestly, Jeff, I became a photographer so I could travel. I love to travel. I started working in I started as an outward bound instructor in the outdoors, and then I ended up in Nepal leading treks. And that's when, the merging of photography and travel became very strong. And I just realized I'm kind of born to roam. And it's been, a great marriage of art and travel. And, travel is all about invigorating your senses. And so is photography. I still just travel about 6 to 8 months out of the year.
Well, you're kind of living the photographer's dream of doing that. So, I mean, what is it you do occupationally now? What allows you to to do all that travel?
Well, as we know, the assignment world is like going, gone.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, teaching, giving lectures, I do tours, I do stuff for National Geographic. I have exhibits, I'm writing books. I actually think it's a very wonderful time because there are ways to really express yourself in so many different venues than before. It was the editors, they were like the guardians. You shall not pass, or they're going to open the gates for you. And now, there's many more opportunities. So I think it's a great time to be a photographer. It's a hard time to make a living at it. So you have to have a lot of pieces in the pie. There's no question.
Well, so, I mean, to that point, are there any things that you have that are coming up that you would like to promote, to whether they're teaching or workshops or books?
Oh, I teach for the Santa Fe workshop, and I have that coming up. And I do trips with National Geographic, and I'm working on a new exhibit with my infrared photography and working on a book about infrared photography, as well as I have a long-term project about the evolution of myself as a travel and a photographer that someday I hope to finish.
We have 5 images that you needed to choose to decide what are your influences and what has brought you to where you are creatively. Did you have a through line? Is there like a concept between what these 5 images are, or are they sort of 5 separate images altogether?
They're 5 separate images, but each one of them, and honestly, each one of the personalities have influenced me greatly. So it's a combination of, photography is very much about the photographer. So, and each one of these images kind of came at different points in my life and influenced me in different ways.
All right. Well, let's take a look at Nevada Weir's myFIVE images. And we start with the great Elliot Porter. Tell us about why you have this image up here to talk about as being the great influence that it is?
Well, first of all, he really is the father of landscape and color photography. And I came to Santa Fe in 1974 as an outward bound instructor, and but before that, I was in college in Arizona, and I remember being there as the Glen Canyon was being flooded because it started flooding in '63, and in '72, I had always been influenced by art, but I had never had a camera growing up. And I remember lying in Escalante Canyon, staring up at these walls and thinking about this amazing book that came out in '69 of the desert varnish and the different magical sinuous canyons. And I was thinking, what a joy it would be outdoors and preserve your vision in such a way. So that was the kernel of my photography. And I remember my first camera was this large format Deardorff wooden camera. And a little unwieldy for backpacking, but he lived in Santa Fe, it turned out. I did
Oh,
meet him once, and so he was just a great inspiration to me. And also, he didn't just do the grand landscape. He picked out emotive images. And that was something that I think has been really important to me, and not to say, here's everything that I love.
right.
It's like, what about it do I love? And he first instilled that idea in me.
Your second image comes from Margaret Bourke-White. Tell us about this iconic image and why this is an influence to you.
Well, she's also an iconic photographer. I mean, her accomplishments span, war photography, life photographer. She had the first cover of Life magazine, I believe. She was really something. And this was about telling a story in a single image. I did work for a newspaper for a while. That was very important. How can you get a story in a single image? And this was during the flood. There's 1937, the flood of the Ohio River. Very, very terrible. It was just inundated like 70% of Louisville, I believe. And this is, of course, you're struck by the billboard, right? You think, oh, it's a contradiction. But then you also realize these aren't down and out, people standing there all very well dressed. But it kind of goes, well, wait a minute, why are these the people who are being displaced? And, there's just so much information in this photograph. And she had the ability to do that over and over again in so many of her images. So I have the highest regard for her. And she taught me a lot about, make an impact in one image, make an impact.
And this did it. I have to say, I've never this image comes up on this program every once in a while because it is so influential to photographers. We've never talked about the little girl who's on the far left-hand side of the image who's wearing the flight suit and the flight helmet. Have you noticed her? Just
I see what you're talking about with the aviator. No, isn't that interesting that she has her little aviator hat on? I was struck by every single person because again, you're not they've got on great clothes, shoes, they're
yeah,
very well dressed, real dapper. Yeah, she's looking at the camera. There's only a few people that are actually looking at the camera.
yeah.
But the dichotomy in this picture is just too extraordinary, especially the image of the American family with the little dog hanging out the window. It's just too much.
Yeah.
Oh, but also, hey, if you go to the right of the little girl and the guy not looking at the camera, he's got similar flaps.
Oh, he's wearing an aviator hat too, or something that.
Yeah, it's just the way maybe a style at that time to
Oh,
stay warm.
maybe.
But
Sure.
anyway, yeah, no, isn't that great? And you notice when I looked at that, when you mentioned that, I leaned forward. I kind of go, I have to get more involved. And these are the images that we love, whether you like it or you don't like it. If an image makes you pause
Yeah,
and go deeper, that is a successful image.
yeah. The image that does that for me is that Robert Frank image of the bus in New Orleans where
Oh yeah.
with all the windows. I can look at that just constantly, exact same way. Your third image, and I was very pleased that you brought this into the discussion, is from the Webb telescope and from NASA. Tell us about this amazing capture.
It is amazing. I mean, this is actually a second rendition of the first one that was made was just kind of was just far infrared light. And this one has middle, so it's even stronger. But the fact that we can see the beginnings of the universe, I mean, how can we not be awed? I mean, at one point I wanted to be an astronaut really badly. I would go down to the museums. I grew up in Washington, D.C. before I moved out
Don't give up on your
west.
dream yet. Keep going.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm not sure I could afford to be an astronaut now, but at the time, my eyes kept me out. There's no way I would have passed the test, and probably the math that went with it too. But nevertheless, I had telescopes for a long time, and I would always be looking at the stars. And when this image came out, I just thought we can photograph parts of the universe. And of course, what's happening today with astrophotography is phenomenal. What
Yeah.
people are doing with the sensors that we have now and the ability to really, use infrared light in a different way than I use infrared light, of course, because it's such a large spectrum. But it isn't, it just is, it's talk about awe-inspiring, and doesn't it feel like a creature? It feels like
It does.
something. And they keep working on this image. New renditions keep coming out with this information. They're able with new technology to get more and more information.
So one of the things about you being on this program is you are a person who brings in images from a wide variety of genres of photography. This one from NASA and the old one from Margaret Bourke-White. And then you've got Elliot Porter, and we go a different direction now with David Allen Harvey. Talk about this one.
Well, this is when I really I'm self-taught, okay? And there's a great thing about that because there's no preconceived notions. On the other hand, the teacher doesn't know anything, so it takes a long time. And the way that I learned about photography was studying images. And of course, the great National Geographic photographers and David Allen Harvey, the way he uses and other photographers do too, light and shadow and multiple subjects like layers. He was such a master at this of here's something coming in on the left-hand side. Then we have other action in the back. We've got strong light in the background with the people. We have the people hanging over on the right-hand side. Everything works. And I love complicated images. I love images that require really, you have to be fast. You have to be right on it. You have to be able to look at all sorts of areas of your frame and separate individual images in one gestalt whole. And I think it's very tough to do. And I just study his images and other photographers like him, and particularly also his use of light and shadow has always been very strong. This is something that I'm always looking for when I photograph. It's not always there, but when I'm in a situation that has the possibility, that's what I'm aiming for.
Yeah, there's so much you can learn from just trying to visualize what he was doing to capture this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's looking at the frame on the right side with the people who are up on the wall, and you've got the umbrella there. But I assume that this person is walking with the bike, and then obviously the guy's moving as he's jumping, but waiting for that all to happen, and even the position of the wheel blocking the sun, the brightest part of the sun. If that wheel were inches in one direction or the other, everything would have been blown out because the sun would have taken over the image.
I say to my students all the time, and I say everything has to matter in an image. There can't be one thing out of place. And in an image this complicated, you nailed it. And silhouettes have to be impeccable.
Yeah.
They have to be clear, which these are in 4 situations, even the person in the chair. That it's a little more obscure, but everything matters in an image, and that's why I'm still old school of I crop very rarely. It's almost like just crust off of bread at the most part, because I really try to make the whole frame work. And of course, it's a different world these days, but I still have that in mind because it's that the world is coming in front of you, and it's that that magic of perfection right in 1 second. And that's why I love still photography, because it's just that, indelible moment in time.
Me too. I love it as well. And we're finishing up with your fifth image from Eric Meola. Talk about this one. This is
Well,
beautiful.
I really wanted to come back to color, with Elliot Porter being, really one of the first, early landscape photographers in the time of Minor White and Ansel Adams. And Ansel Adams even said that Elliot Porter was the master of color.
Hmm.
And so was Eric Meola. I mean, his career is vast with numbers of books and the same way that Elliot Porter would take pieces of landscapes. I was really struck with Eric Meola's portraits, because he's not someone who just goes, oh, interesting person, click. He goes, interesting person, why?
Hmm.
And sometimes it might be a piece like this. I mean, and obviously he's driven by color. He also is self-taught, and he was an apprentice to Pete Turner for a while. Of course, he's one of the handful of great colorists.
Yes.
But he also has that ability to say, this is what matters to me, to him in that image. And he's also he's a traveler. He did a book on storms. I mean, he was commercial photography. He did the photographs for Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run. I mean, he's really quite amazing. But his sense of color and moment and he also is good in festivals, but he's really shines in these portraits where he just goes, yeah, that's it. Because it's a person and emotion as opposed to just an interesting face. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally it does. Totally it does. Perfectly said as well. Well, Nevada Weir, third time's a charm. Thank you for coming back onto the Crit House after so many technical problems caused us not to be able to record this before. It really was a pleasure talking to you, and I greatly appreciate your patience with us as well.
Oh, no worries. It's been fun. I look forward to a different series at a different time.
Well, thanks again, and thank you all for watching the
Okay,
Crit House.
thank you.